Hey, and welcome to another episode of Motors and Meats. Today, we're talking about should I keep this car or should I trade up for a turbo? Let's talk about it. Into the meat of the subject here, let's talk about meat for a second. I cooked some wonderful pork tenderloins over the open flame this weekend. I like to dice up some apples and some bacon and butter and rosemary and garlic and put it all in a pan and let that sear. If you look up Adam Perry Lang, you'll find a version of what I do here. He doesn't use the apples, but oh, it's so fantastic. You're working with your hands for this cook. I've got a short video that I posted back when I first really started the channel, so it's got like 25 views right now, and I'll put a link to it up here. Click on that if you want to see the process on this from the previous time that I cooked it. For starters, I'm not thinking about doing this today. I'm not thinking about doing it probably before the end of this year at best, but I am thinking about it. I've had this car now for nearly 3 years. I got it in December of 2019, and I'd never owned a sports car before that. I'd had a sort of collector car before. It was an antique. It was a 1965 Ford Falcon, but it had a 200 cubic inch straight six engine that had all the torque you needed for a little car, but it was not a hot rod. It had 110 horsepower, which is plenty for that. I didn't race it or anything. It wasn't anything like that, but it was a pretty car and it was a cool car, and I loved it. And I drove it daily for 13 years. Now I have this. Had this for 3 years, nowhere near 13, and I love it. I absolutely love this car. Every time I get in it, I'm thinking, patting the dash, good boy, you've done good. Every time I get in it, once the engine's warm, I take it to redline at least a couple of times. I have the trip coming up this weekend up to the Smoky Mountains, going to the Tail of the Dragon and lots of other places, and there'll be lots of content coming from that, so make sure you're subscribed to all the channels. I know that's going to be represented there as myself, Jay Reed, Auto Amateur, and Alberto B. So make sure you're subscribed to all those channels so that you don't miss any of the content from whenever we get together to drive. And if you're available, and if it's not too late, please come join us. The more the merrier. So whenever I make this trip, I will be crossing over the 150,000 mile mark. Maybe not right by the time I get there, but before I get home, I will have crossed 150,000 miles. The car had 105,510 miles whenever I signed papers on the hood of the seller's truck in the middle of the night at the end of December in 2019. And I immediately, in 4 days, put 2,500 miles on it. Because I bought it in California, I live in Mississippi, had to drive it home. And that's really been the trend for my ownership of this car, is drive the wheels off of it. So why am I thinking about the possibility of trading or selling this one and buying a turbo? Why not? I don't know. Why not? Exactly. I mean, I love this car, and the turbo version of this car would be a little better, a little faster, I guess. Well, for starters, it would be a 996.2, so that means I'd have a glove box, and that would be really cool. I would have a cup holder, better than just this one that I have clipped into my air vent. So yeah, definitely there's some benefits to having a 996.2. And if I was going to go that route, I would definitely do it with a turbo and not another Carrera. Why else? Well, unless you've been hiding under a rock, if you're part of the Porsche community, you've seen the values on the 996 skyrocket So again, I bought my car 3 years ago, and I was a little earlier than I was supposed to. It was supposed to be my 40th birthday present to myself, but I got it 9 months early because I talked my wife into letting me go ahead and do that, because I could see the writing on the wall. The values, the selling prices were starting to go up. People were starting to make lots of videos about how this car isn't ugly. It's not the ugly duckling. It's not a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. So I jumped on it whenever I did, and thinking, I may not ever be able to do this again if I don't now. So here we are. I am almost through paying for the car. Again, didn't take very much, but the cool thing about whenever you borrow money on a collector car or a classic car or an exotic car is that you have special lending opportunities. It's funny to talk about debt as an opportunity, but when you think of it as, this thing is actually going to go up in value, I really don't see a problem with that at all. So you can stretch out the payments on these for a ways, but if you don't have to, you don't have to. And I didn't have to with this because they sold for so cheap. And the interest rate is phenomenal on that as well. Insurance. Whenever you're buying insurance for a collector car, you don't just go to your State Farm guy and say, I want to add this one to my policy. You need to get agreed value insurance. And whenever you do that, these people know that you're going to take care of your car better than the guy who just bought, this 20-year-old Toyota Camry. But you think, this car is much more valuable than a 20-year-old Camry. Surely the insurance would be a lot more. But it's not, because again, they know that you're going to take care of this car. But back to the loan. Yes, you can get a loan that stretches out a little bit further. And if I was to sell this car today, I think that I could have a very nice down payment on a turbo and wouldn't have to finance that much at all, and wouldn't even have to stretch it out. But if you needed to, 10 years is not uncommon. I was just looking at one that said 144 months. So let's not just focus on the money side of it. Does it make sense? I do think it does make sense. But besides that, why would I want to have a turbo besides this? Because it goes faster. Like I said, this was my first sports car, and in that 2,500 mile trip home from California to Mississippi, crossing the desert in West Texas after El Paso, when the speed limit is 85 and everybody around you is going 95 and 100, and you look ahead and you can see for 10 to 12 miles and there is nothing out there because it's New Year's Day at about 9 a.m. and you downshift and put your foot down for the first time just to see what the thing can actually do. It was blinding. I kind of blacked out for a second, and I'm like, okay, that's enough, as it jumped from 90 to 120 in a matter of just a couple of seconds. So yeah, that's a fast car. This is a very fast car, but the turbo's faster. Looking here on either Auto Trader or Car Gurus, I like Car Gurus a lot. Looking on Car Gurus, I set the parameters up for 2001 to 2005 911 Turbo S, and I set my maximum mileage on the car at 90,000. Figured I had this one at 105, and I have put 50% more on there since then. I thought I'd start a little bit lower this time and just see what's out there, and everything's ranging from, with a manual, with a coupe, you're ranging anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000 depending on the spec of the car. Some of the more interesting colors do tend to run a little bit higher, and would I pay a little bit more for them? I think I would, but I wouldn't pay a lot extra more for a special color. I think this video needs to have a lot of focus on the comments section. You definitely need to let me know your thoughts. And we need to have some arguments, some discussion in the comments. Tell me why I'm an idiot for wanting to get rid of my beautifully sounding, naturally aspirated Carrera that I've put so much into for so long here. Or tell me why I'm an idiot for not doing it sooner than later. If you think I'm an idiot, put it in the comments. I will gladly accept that comment. But I want to know what you think, and I want us to have a discussion. Short video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let's talk about it.